So hello, this is me continuing the GRE series. It's just essentially us going through 10 words a day. This is essentially for me to learn the vocabulary, but if you feel like it and it's interesting to you and you're learning something as well, that's great. So let's get in. So Calvin Coolidge, our 13th president, was named Silent Cal by reporters because of his laconic speech. So laconic basically means to speak less. So that's why he was named Silent Cal, right? It's a person who's laconic, or whose speeches are laconic. It basically speaks very less, very briefly. They don't speak a lot. So I'm not laconic. I'm the opposite of laconic. One Sunday, after Mr. Coolidge had listened to an interminable sermon, a throng of newsmen gathered around him. A throng is basically like a group of people that gather around someone, and it's like sort of like a flash mob or flash gathering, sort of. I mean, I might be wrong on that. This is essentially how you should think about it. And interminable basically means never ending. We saw that the previous week. Um, yeah, an interpreted reporter accosted the chief executive. Mr. President, we know that the sermon was on the topic of sin. What did the minister say? He was against it, the reticent Coolidge replied. So the interpret, I'm not exactly sure what it means. I mean, we can find out. Yeah, interpret basically means brave, from what I understand. And so the brave reporter accosted the chief executive. Basically, accosting is hailing someone or being like, hey, I mean, sort of like when you accost someone, you confront them in a sort of, it's like sort of how you should think about it. So the brave reporter confronted the chief executive, Mr. President. We know that the sermon was on the topic of sin. What did the minister say? And the reticent Coolidge, or the Coolidge, the laconic Coolidge, or the Coolidge who's generally brief and doesn't speak a lot and not very expressive of his emotions, replied that he was against it, right? So he was against the topic of the sermon, which was on sin. All right, so that's essentially it. So now it's got solving problems, right? His speech was usually rambling, but this time I found it brief and laconic, right? Okay, if a surly panhandler should accost you, keep on walking. So accost is basically, call you from a distance, sort of. I don't know what a panhandler is, but sort of, I'm pretty sure. I mean, from the name, it seems clear. And surly is basically a person who's bitter, or um, not generally in a good mood, or sort of, right? Not giving good vibes. Okay, even under repeated questioning, the witness remained reticent, I think is the correct word, right, for this one. However, I'm pretty sure reticent and laconic could be swapped. So let's check these answers, right, before we go ahead. Yeah, so no, this is correct. So laconic, right? So speeches are generally laconic, and when people just do not talk or do not offer details, that's when you call them reticent. Okay. A howling dash of teenage girls surrounded the rap artist. So what should this be? Throng, right? Okay. The corporal received the silver star for his dash deeds in combat. So brave deeds. That's how you receive a silver star, right? Intrepid. Sorry for the terrible handwriting. I'm using my mouse. I've given up on my iPad. So yeah, I think this is better as well on the laptop as well. I mean, all right. So laconic basically means to express much in few words, right? So yeah, a laconic speech is a speech that expresses a lot but in very few words, right? It's not a very rambling speech, but it gets the job done. It expresses what it's meant to express, but it doesn't use a lot of words to do it. So throng is basically a crowd or a flash mob or something that I'd said. Interpret means to be brave. Intrepid, sorry. That's how you pronounce the word. Yeah, accost means to basically approach or confront, or sort of like call or hail someone. Hail is a better word, I think, I would say. Right? Okay. And reticent means to be silent. Right? So we can just check the last one, and then based on that, I think you can verify all the others. Yeah, reticent just means to be silent. I mean, yeah, that's okay. So the idiom for today is the sword of Damocles. So I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and I'll check it out. right? Pronunciation. Yeah, YouTube would be a bit too much, but let's go for it. I mean, what have we got to lose? Mm, yeah, pretty boring. I don't know why it's not working.
Let's break down his sword in particular. It's actually easy. Let's break down the pronunciation. Damocles.
Damocles. Alright, that's what I wanted. I don't want to hear anything about his sword. But yeah, okay. So the sword of Damocles is basically any imminent danger. A king seated one of his subjects underneath a sword that was hanging by a hair in order to teach him the dangers a king faces. So yeah, so this basically means that a king's life is so in threat or always under um, people also want to murder the king, and the way he taught a subject was by making the subject sit underneath a sword that was hanging just by her hair. So hair is obviously a very thin thing and can break anytime. So yeah, he's like that's how my life is. That's how I lead my life. At any moment, I could be killed, right? And the difference between me getting killed and not is just a strand of hair. So yeah, any imminent danger is basically what you use for the sword of Damocles, right? So although the president of the company seemed quite secure, he always complained that there was a sword of Damocles hanging over his head. Yeah, so same thing. He's always afraid of any imminent danger to him, the president of the company, that is. Right? Okay. Let's move on to day 2 quickly. Casting a furtive glance. A furtive is basically a stealthy or a glance that's like, it's not very conspicuous. When you do something furtively, you're doing it secretively or you're doing it trying not to draw too much attention to yourself, right? So furtive is basically, yes, secret or stealthy. That's the meaning. A felon is basically someone who's convicted of a crime. So yeah, they've gone to jail. I mean, that's a no. Yeah. So slipping out of the main prison gate to be swallowed up in the British fog, right? Casting a furtive glance over the shoulder, the felon, the person who who was put into prison, escaped and slipped out of the prison gate to be swallowed up in the British fog. A plethora of escapees from supposedly secure prisons embarrassed the hapless wardens. So a plethora is basically a large number of people or a throng or a, a vast variety or a mixture of escapees from supposedly secure prisons embarrassed the hapless. Helpless is basically sort of, you can imagine it as helpless wardens. To compound their problems, the officials are badgered. So compound is to add to, and badgered is to consistently pester someone, right? By irate citizens. Irate means angry. So people, when you're irate, you're basically very angry. Citizens who accuse the guard of accepting bribes from convicts whose motto was stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. So yeah, I mean, wow, that's like a nice quote. Stone walls do not a prison make, nor iron bars a cage. So yeah, so that was the thing. So yeah, the dash contest winner was unable to locate the lucky ticket. So I think hapless is correct here, right? The helpless contest winner, or it might be irate as well. We have to think about this. My uncle was dashed when the drunken driver swerved in front of us. My uncle was so yeah, this should be irate then. This should not be hapless, right? Because hapless is much better here. The uncle was helpless or hapless when the drunken driver swerved in front of us. There's nothing he could do. But this contest winner has won the contest but is still unable to locate the lucky ticket. So that's why this irate or angry. In a dash manner, she removed her shoes and tiptoed up to her room. So furtive, right? Secretive. When the teacher asked why the homework had not been done, he was greeted by a dash of incredible alibis, a plethora, right? Like, we students are always finding ways to not do our homework. So this should be relatable to anyone who's preparing for the GRE or anyone just trying to improve their vocabulary as well. Since the boss learned that Bob associated with a known felon. So yeah, felon, he fired him. So obviously, don't associate yourselves with felon people. That's not a good thing to do. All right. So furtive basically means secret. Felon is basically a person guilty of a major crime, not a minor crime, a major crime. Plethora is basically an excess or like a lot of like reasons or like a group. I don't remember what I said earlier, but I mean you get the thing. Okay, so hapless doesn't mean helpless. It means unfortunate, right? So that's something you need to update in your in your mind. And yeah, irate basically means to be angry or incensed. So let's just check this once, and just to like make ourselves happy. Yeah. So oh no, I zoomed in. Yeah, this isn't going to be good. Should be fine. Let's see, irate. Ah no. So number one is helpless, and number two is irate. Okay. Okay. So see, my instinct was right. My instinct was completely right, but I led you down the wrong path. I'm extremely sorry. So yeah, this should be irate then. Sorry, hapless. And this should be irate, right? Now, why this is the case, I too am not 100% sure. Maybe I'll write to the authors. But yeah, the uncle was angry when the drunken driver sold in front of us, and the contest winner, even though they'd won the contest, was helpless or like, was yeah, it was unfortunate that she couldn't find the lucky ticket. So even here, embarrass the hapless wardens. So the helpless or like the unfortunate wardens. Yeah, poor guys. All right. So yeah, and the thing for today is idiom-pyrrhic victory. I think this is commonplace, used a lot in daily like common language. Pyrrhic victory is basically a victory that's too costly. So it's like you've won, but at what cost? So a too costly victory. King Pyrrhus defeated the Romans, but his losses were extremely heavy. So yeah. So for example, in heavy fighting, the troops managed to recapture the hill, but it could only be considered a Pyrrhic victory because the amount of lives they lost, say, or the amount of resources they invested in recapturing the hill was too costly a cost compared to actually winning the hill, if that makes sense, right? There was no point of actually winning the hill after they won it because of how much it invested and how much went into it. So yeah, that's what a Pyrrhic victory is. So yeah, so just to recap, and a couple of like very important words is hapless and irate, and especially the usages, which is something we messed up today. So yeah, so the hapless contest winner was unable to look at the lucky ticket, and the uncle was irate or angry when the drunken driver swerved in front of us, right? And yeah, the meanings are here. Yeah, furtive was pretty easy. Yeah, and plethora again, excess. Yeah, and the other words we had today. Yeah, reticent is silent. Accost is to approach someone. Laconic is to express much in few words. Right? So yeah, that's it for today. And yeah, see you then tomorrow. If I remember to upload, but I'll try my best. All right. Bye bye.